I want you to picture something for a second. It's a headspace I think we've all been in. You're at the shooting range. You got your ears on. You can smell that burnt powder in the air. And, you're feeling good. You've been shooting your main pistol. Maybe it's a full-size gun you've had for years. And you are just, you're drilling the center out of the target. You feel competent. You feel like you know what you're doing.
It's a great feeling, that competence. It's addictive.
It really is. So riding that high, you decide to switch things up. You pick up that new subcompact you just bought.
Oh, boy.
Or maybe a friend hands you their gun to try. You step up, you press out, you line up the sights exactly like you've been doing all day, you break the shot, and you look downrange. Nothing.
The target is clean, no hole in the bullseye.
Or worse, there is a hole, but it's like 6 inches low and to the left. And that's the moment your ego just tanks.
Yeah.
Because your brain immediately goes on the defensive. You start making excuses. Man, these sights are way off. This trigger is so gritty. Who regulated this thing?
My personal favorite is, this must be a bad batch of ammo.
It's never us, is it?
It's almost never us, right? But looking at the deep dive we have today, specifically on iron sight mechanics from Valor Tech, we kind of have to swallow a jagged little pill here. It is.
Yeah.
It's usually not the gun. And it's usually not the ammo. It's a communication breakdown.
So we're speaking English to a gun that only understands French.
That is the perfect way to put it. We're diving into the world of iron sights today. And I know we live in the era of red dots, so irons can feel like ancient history to some.
A bit.
But understanding this is the bedrock of marksmanship. We are going to unpack why your eyes physically can't do what you think they're doing, the geometry of why we miss, and most importantly, the 3 different languages or holds that pistols use.
This is really about moving from I hope I hit it to I know I'm going to hit it.
Exactly. It's about taking the guesswork out of it and just replacing it with data.
Okay, so let's strip it down to the studs. When we say iron sights, we're talking about the most analog system you can get. A notch on the back, a post on the front.
Simple, rugged, no batteries required. But the source material makes a distinction right out of the gate that I think stops most people. We tend to use 2 terms interchangeably, sight alignment and sight picture.
I definitely do that.
We all do. We say, oh, I had a good sight picture. When what we really meant was we had good alignment, but they're fundamentally different things.
Okay, so break that down for me.
Right. So sight alignment is purely mechanical. It's just the relationship of the gun to itself. It has nothing to do with the target yet. It is strictly, is the front post centered in the rear notch.
That's the old mantra, right? Equal height, equal light.
That's the one. The top of the front sight has to be perfectly level with the top of the rear sight. And those little slivers of light on either side of the front post, they need to be symmetrical. If you have that, the gun is aligned, the barrel is pointing where the sights are pointing.
Okay, so that's step 1, the hardware check. What's step 2?
Step 2 is the sight picture. That's where you take that perfectly aligned set of sights and you paste it onto the world. It's the relationship between your aligned sights and your target.
Right.
And this brings us right to the core conflict of this whole thing. The difference between point of aim your POA and point of impact your POI.
In my head, those should be the same thing. Point of aim is where point of impact is where the hole shows up.
Yeah.
If they aren't the same, isn't the gun just broken?
In a video game, yeah, maybe. But in the real world of physics, it's a bit more complicated. Think about a pistol's design. The sights sit on top of the slide, right?
Sure.
They're maybe half an inch, sometimes almost an inch, above the actual bore line where the bullet comes out. So the bullet starts its journey lower than your line of sight.
Okay.
So the bullet to hit where you were looking, the barrel actually has to be angled slightly upward to intersect with your line of sight downrange.
So the bullet is kind of being lobbed up to meet my vision?
Technically, yes. It rises to meet your line of sight, and that intersection point is where the gun is zeroed. But, and this is the kicker, different manufacturers regulate their guns for different sight pictures. They decide where that visual intersection is supposed to happen.
Meaning the factory does the math before you even open the box.
Correct. So you pick up a 6-hour. It might be regulated differently than a Glock, which is totally different from, say, a vintage 1911 target pistol. If you use the wrong visual input, the wrong hold, you're feeding the gun bad data. Your alignment is perfect, but your picture is wrong.
And that's why I miss with my buddy's gun, even though I feel like I'm doing everything right.
Yeah.
I'm using my gun's rules on his gun.
You haven't lost your skill, you've just lost your calibration.
Okay, before we get into the different holds, because I really want to know how to fix this, we have to talk about biology. The source material spends a lot of time on the human eye, and it turns out we are evolutionarily just not good at shooting with iron sights.
We really aren't. It fights our own biology. The human eye has a very limited depth of field. We can't focus on 3 focal planes at the same time.
Right.
You cannot have the rear sight, which is, I don't know, 18 inches from your face, the front sight at 24 inches, and the target at 10 yards all be in focus at once. It's just physically impossible.
But we try. I feel myself doing it all the time. That constant shifting of focus. Target, sight, target, sight. It's exhausting.
That's your brain trying to solve a problem it literally can't solve. You have to make a choice. And the hard truth, the non-negotiable rule of iron sights, is that your focus must be on the front sight.
Which means the target, the thing you're trying to hit, is going to be blurry.
It will be blurry, and your rear sight will be blurry too. You are staring intently at a sharp piece of metal, while the thing you want to hit is just a fuzzy blob in the background.
That is so psychologically difficult. We're predators, right? We want to lock our eyes on the prey, on the threat. Staring at a little metal post while a threat is out there feels reckless.
It feels completely counterintuitive, but this is where the geometry comes in. If you focus on the target, you will subconsciously let that front sight drift. You won't even notice your alignment breaking. And because of something called angular error, a tiny little drift at the gun becomes a massive miss at the target.
Okay, let's unpack angular error, because
Yeah.
this also explains why people think their little subcompact guns are just inaccurate, right?
It is the entire explanation. Think of your line of sight and the bullet's path as 2 sides of a very, very long triangle. If you misalign the sights by just 1 millimeter at your hands, that angle just opens up wider and wider as it travels.
So distance is just a magnifier for your mistakes.
A huge magnifier. At 3 yards, you're off by an inch. Who cares? But at 25 yards, that same 1 millimeter error means that angle has opened up to 10 or 12 inches. You've missed the whole target. And this is where sight radius just kills people on small guns. The sight radius is simply the distance between your front and rear sight. On a big, long target pistol, that radius is long, it's forgiving, you can see tiny misalignments easily.
But on a little snub-nosed carry gun,
The radius is tiny, 3, maybe 4 inches. So
Wow.
a 1 millimeter error on that short radius creates a much, much steeper angle of deviation than it does on a long one.
so the little gun isn't less accurate mechanically. The barrel is fine. It's just that the geometry makes it way harder for a human to be precise with it.
The gun is mechanically capable of hitting the bullseye. The human is structurally disadvantaged by the short radius. The air gets amplified. That's why you pick up that little subcompact and you whiff. You're using the same margin of error as your big gun, but on the little gun, that margin puts you 6 inches low.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better about my pocket pistol skills.
Yeah.
It's not just me being shaky. It's literally math.
It's math, but it's math we can solve if we use the right hold.
All right, let's solve the mystery. We talked about the whole English versus French thing. The source material lays out 3 main languages, or holds. And I think this is where a lot of people are going to have that aha moment.
This is the universal hold trap. We assume every gun works the same way, but, typically you'll run into one of 3 styles: the center hold, the combat hold, and the 6 o'clock hold.
Let's start with the one that feels the most logical, at least to me, the center hold.
Okay, so the center hold is the middle ground. Your point of aim is roughly equal to your point of impact. You take the top razor-sharp edge of your front sight, and you use it to cut the bullseye in half horizontally.
So I'm basically bisecting the target. The top of my sight becomes the equator of the bullseye.
Exactly. If you're shooting a standard target, you put the top of the post right across the center line. The bullet should land right behind that edge. It's intuitive. It's pretty standard for a lot of American service pistols.
Okay. But then you get the combat hold. And this one seems to cause all the arguments on the internet forums.
Yeah, this one's a big one. The combat hold is built for speed, for use under stress. With this one, you don't cut the target in half. You cover it up. You place the dot on your front sight, or sometimes the whole post directly over the spot you want the bullet to go.
So I am intentionally blocking my own view of the bullseye with my sight.
Yes. It's often called a target occluding hold. Think of it like a touch screen. If you want to hit a button, you put your finger on the button. Here, you put the dot on the threat.
Why would anyone want that? I mean, I want to see what I'm hitting.
You do, but in a defensive situation, you aren't analyzing target rings. You're just reacting. It's a gross motor skill. It's put the dot on the bad guy, press the trigger. It's faster to index a dot on a large shape than it is to carefully balance a fine line under a specific point.
Okay, I get that. It's more of a blunt instrument approach. Dot on target, bang.
Precisely. 6-hour Glock, they often set up their combat sights this way, but here's the problem. If you try to use a center hold with a gun set up for a combat hold, you're going to hit low. Because the gun expects you to cover the target, which means you should be aiming higher. If you aim center, you're dropping the muzzle relative to where the gun thinks it's supposed to be.
And that probably explains the famous low left miss for a lot of new shooters. Well, part of it.
The low part, for sure. The left is usually trigger control. But yeah, the low is often just a hold error.
All right, so what about the third one? The one that all the precision nerds seem to love. The 6 o'clock hold. The lollipop.
This is the most elegant one visually. Imagine a lollipop. The stick is your front sight post, and the round candy part is the bullseye. You rest the bullseye directly on top of the front sight post.
So technically, my point of aim is below the bullseye. I'm aiming at the white paper underneath the black circle.
You're aiming at the very bottom edge of the circle, but the gun is regulated so that the bullet impacts a few inches higher, right in the center of the black.
Why go through all that mental gymnastics of aiming low to hit high?
Visibility. One word. With the combat hold, you cover the target. Center hold, you cover half of it. With the 6 o'clock, you have a 100% clear, unobstructed view of your entire target. You can see the edges perfectly. It allows for extreme precision.
That makes a ton of sense for target shooting, but it sounds kind of terrible for self-defense.
It is less than ideal for defense. In a high-stress moment, you might not have a nice, crisp black circle to rest on top of your sight post. You just have a guy in a dark hoodie. Where's the 6 o'clock on a hoodie?
Good point. So center and combat are for practical use. 6 o'clock is more for the range.
Generally speaking, yes. But the key is you have to know which one your gun was built for.
Okay, so here's the million-dollar question. I buy a used pistol, or a new one, and the manual's useless, which happens. I don't know if it's a center, combat, or 6 o'clock gun. How do I figure it out? Do I just guess?
Please don't guess. That's how we burn through ammo and confidence. The source material gives us a great no-guess diagnostic. It's basically the scientific method for your sights, and it requires you to check your ego at the door.
Walk us through it.
First, eliminate variables. You are testing the gun, not your ability to stand and shoot fast. So sit down. Use a bench rest, a sandbag, something solid. Rest your wrists or the gun itself on the bag. We want the gun to be rock solid.
Take the caffeine jitters out of the equation.
Exactly. Set your target at a reasonable distance, 10, maybe 15 yards. Don't try to be a hero out at 25.
Okay. Stable gun, 15 yards. Now what?
Now you're going to fire 3 separate 5-round groups, and you have to be really disciplined about this.
All right.
Group 1, use a strict center hold. Cut that bullseye in half, fire your 5 rounds. Then, group 2, use the combat hold, put that front dot right over the bullseye, fire 5. And finally, group 3, the lollipop. Rest the bullseye right on top of the front sight, fire 5 more.
So now I should have 3 distinct clusters on the paper.
Hopefully they're clusters. Now you just look at the data. You compare the center of each group to where you are aiming. Which group is closest to the bullseye you intended to hit? If your combat hold group is dead center, and the others are high or low, well, congratulations, you own a combat hold pistol.
That's the language it speaks.
That is its language, and you can't really argue with it. I mean, you can adjust the sights if they're adjustable or file them down if you're brave, but it's usually just easier to adjust your brain.
What about ammo? Does that mess with this diagnostic?
It absolutely can. We touched on ballistics earlier. A heavy bullet, like a 147 grain 9mm, moves slower, so it spends more time in the barrel while the gun is recoiling. Because of that dwell time, the muzzle actually rises a tiny bit more before the bullet exits.
Wait, hold on. A slower bullet hits higher. That seems completely backwards.
I know, right? You'd think it would drop more, and at long range it does. But at these close pistol distances, the recoil impulse is lifting the barrel before the bullet even leaves. A fast bullet gets out before the barrel rises much. A slow bullet kind of rides that recoil wave up a little longer, so yeah, it often hits a bit high.
That is wild. So if I do this whole diagnostic with my cheap 115 grain range ammo, but I carry 124 grain defensive rounds, my zero could shift.
It almost certainly will. The rule is simple. Test with what you carry.
Always. It's a whole system. The gun, the specific bullet, and your hold. You change one piece, you change the result.
Precisely.
So let's pivot to hardware for the last few minutes. We've talked about how to use them, but what about upgrading them? The market is just flooded with sights. Fiber optic, tritium, blacked out, you name it. The source material has a pretty strong take on this, something like mission over fashion.
It does, and I love that phrasing. Don't buy sights because they look cool on Instagram. Buy them to solve a specific problem you have.
Okay, so let's break down the missions. Mission A, pure, bleeding edge accuracy. I want to hit a playing card at 25 yards.
Then you want the most boring sights possible. Plain black, a serrated rear sight to cut glare, and a plain black post up front.
No dots. No glowing fiber.
No distractions. The reason target shooters use plain black is it gives you the absolute sharpest, crispest edges. You can see that equal light gap perfectly. As soon as you add a glowing green dot, it can bloom or create a little halo in your vision. That fuzziness kills precision.
Okay. Mission B, defensive carry. I might need this to save my life, day or night.
This is where high visibility is king. You want something that just grabs your eye's attention immediately. Fiber optics are amazing for daylight. They gather sunlight and make that front dot just scream, "Here I am."
But fiber doesn't work in the dark. It's just a piece of plastic then.
Correct. In the dark, it's a black post. That's why for a carry gun, tritium is the gold standard. It's a tiny glass vial with a radioactive isotope that glows on its own for about 10 or 12 years.
It's a battery-free nightlight for your gun.
Exactly. In low light, you can't align what you can't see. You need those reference points.
I've seen hybrids too, right? Like a tritium vial that's wrapped in a big, bright orange circle.
That is, in my opinion, the absolute best of both worlds for a fighting pistol. In the daylight, your eye sees that big orange circle super fast. At night, you see the glowing tritium core. It's not for splitting playing cards, but for combat-accurate shooting, it's fantastic.
One last hardware question. Adjustable versus fixed sights? I see guys with those huge rear sights with all the little screws on them.
Those are great for competitors, for gamers. If you're shooting matches and you switch from a 124 grain load to a 147 grain load, you can just click a screw a few times and re-zero your gun. It's a luxury.
But for a carry gun, a duty gun?
Absolutely not. Murphy's Law is in full effect. If a screw can vibrate loose, it will vibrate loose, probably at the worst possible moment. For a defensive gun, you want fixed sights. You hammer them into place, and they stay there forever.
You want a bomb-proof.
You want to be able to rack the slide off a concrete barrier using your rear sight and not lose your zero. That should be the standard.
Wow. We have covered a massive amount of ground here, from the biology of the eye to barrel geometry to the actual languages these guns speak.
And I think if there's one central theme to take away from all this, it's that accuracy isn't magic. It looks like magic when you see a top-tier shooter do it, but it's just data. It's the consistent application of physics.
It's knowing that if I pick up a SIG, I probably need to cover the target. But if I pick up an old 1911, I might need to lollipop it.
And not getting frustrated when the wires get crossed. You have to be willing to be a beginner again for just 5 minutes when you switch tools.
It reminds me of driving a rental car. You know how to drive, but you get in a weird car and the brake pedal is super sensitive.
Oh, I've done that.
You nearly put your face to the windshield. You don't get out and say, this car is broken. You say, oh, okay, the brakes are touching. You just calibrate your foot. We need to do the same thing with our eyes.
That's the perfect analogy. Calibrate the driver, don't blame the car.
And that diagnostic drill, those 15 rounds, that's your test drive in the parking lot before you hit the highway.
It's the cheapest insurance policy you can buy for your own competence.
So here's the final thought for everyone listening. We know you love your gear. We all do. We buy the holsters, the lights, the fancy grips. But when was the last time you actually just asked your gun what it wants from you?
It's a relationship. It's got to go both ways.
Take 15 minutes, take 15 rounds, go run the diagnostic, and find out if your confidence is based on hard data or if maybe, just maybe, you've been getting lucky all this time.
Luck runs out. Zeros don't.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
Stay safe out there.